When it comes to mid-size luxury SUVs, the segment practically owes its existence to Mercedes-Benz. The company essentially created this type of vehicle with the original ML class all the way back in 1997. Now, 2 years later, AMG also created the first high-performance mid-size SUV with the original ML55 all the way back in 1999. And at the time, that vehicle was a 342 horsepower, hand-built 5.4-liter V8. Now, obviously, since then, the segment has completely changed, and back in 2020, we saw an all-new version of the ML, which essentially was renamed to the GLE class back in 2016. Now, in that 4-year time span, it's time for Mercedes-AMG and Mercedes-Benz to give the GLE class its first refresh. And as you can see, this week, we are driving the fully updated 2024 Mercedes-AMG GLE 63S, which means we have a 603 horsepower, 4-liter hand-built twin-turbo V8 and enough performance that it should embarrass a lot of BMWs, Porsches, Audis, Bentleys, etc. out on the road. So if you guys have roughly 6 figures to spend on a new mid-size high-performance SUV, how does the fully updated 2024 GLE 63S stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling changes for 2024, this is an AMG model, so I thought I'd show you guys the magic under the hood first. Now, Mercedes-AMG continues to offer the GLE in 2 different flavors. For those of you who don't need quite this much power, there's also the GLE 53, which has a 3-liter turbocharged inline-6, delivering 429 horsepower and now 413 pound-feet of torque. This, however, is the full-fat V8 model, the one that has a hand-built engine built by one engineer at the factory in Mercedes-Benz. He or she even signs the engine after they're done building it. And it's basically a 4-liter twin turbocharged direct injection double overhead cam V8. It's got 2 twin scroll turbos nestled in the V. It's a hot V configuration to try to mitigate lag. And the engine still makes the same power as the pre-refresh model, 603 horsepower and 627 pound-feet of torque. Those figures are unchanged, and they didn't really need to add more power because this engine already is mighty powerful. It actually is augmented by an EQ Boost 48-volt mild hybrid system, which Mercedes-AMG says it can add up to 21 horsepower and 184 pound-feet of torque on its own. It can't actually combine that with the V8, but it will add that power, assist the engine at low speeds whenever it's kind of whenever the engine is not running, to kind of give you a consistent power delivery. But it all goes out through a 9-speed automatic transmission. It's technically an MCT. Mercedes-AMG replaces the torque converter with a twin clutch system, and this vehicle comes standard with their Formatic Plus Performance all-wheel drive with a limited slip rear differential. Fuel economy, in case you care, is rated at 15 in the city, 20 on the highway. Premium gas, of course, is required. This has around a 22-gallon gas tank, so you're going to be looking at around $90 to fill this up with premium, at least around $4.50 a gallon gas. It was showing around 400 miles on a full tank, so that's not bad in terms of efficiency. AMG claims this will get to 60 in 3.7 seconds. It has a top speed of 174 miles an hour, and it'll also tow a maximum of 7,700 pounds. As this car sits, it weighs in at just around 5,600 pounds. But let's go ahead and close up the hood and talk about the exterior styling changes. Now, unless you guys own the pre-refresh model or you're a Mercedes-Benz salesperson, you're not gonna really notice the changes here to this 2024 model. It is very subtle. I'll eventually show you guys the other models of the GLE. There's also basically at the base end a 350 going up to this model here. There's also a new plug-in hybrid. That's a separate review. But you can see this model basically has the same new front-end styling with these redesigned headlights. I mean, redesigned is kind of a relative term here. There are these new 4-point LEDs. This is still the multi-beam full LED headlights with an LED daytime running light, LED turn signal, LED low and high beams. The AMG model also includes their Pan America style grille with the chrome vertical slats. My tester is missing the night package, which would black out these slats. You have the massive Mercedes logo, which houses the radar sensor for the adaptive cruise control. And then you have the AMG badge here on the hood. It just all looks very nice. The front bumper on the AMG is also much larger and more aggressive, especially the front splitter, along with these functional air intakes. The dark emerald green color of my test vehicle, you can see as the sun hits it, just glistens in the sunlight. And although the green itself, it only looks green when you have it in direct sunlight. When it's a cloudy day outside, this actually looks like a black car. So I'm not entirely sure I would choose this color unless you're always going to be driving it in sunlight, because it does look black in most situations. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see this vehicle is a mid-size SUV, but the company does offer a third row. So it slots between the GLS and the GLC in the lineup. And this vehicle is one of their best sellers, actually. Just barely is around number 2. The GLC is their best-selling vehicle, but you can see here the AMG model, my particular tester, has the optional 22-inch matte black wheels. These are around $3,300 extra, and the tires are really fat. You can see there's a 285 by 40 ZR22 in the front, and even fatter 315 in the rear. So that's a staggered setup. My tester also has the AMG carbon ceramic brakes. This is around a $6,000 extra charge. It's got a 16-inch rotor clamped by 6-piston calipers, so you can see serious stopping power, and you also have adaptive air suspension where the vehicle can raise and lower itself up to 2.2 inches when you have it in its off-road setting, which is kind of ridiculous considering how fat these tires are. Now you can see V8 bi-turbo for 4MATIC Plus badge to show everybody around the sides that you've got the big daddy of the AMG models. And then in terms of the size, this vehicle is a really good size. Its wheelbase is around just under 118 inches long. They stretched it by 3 inches compared to the previous generation. Its overall length is around 195 inches long. So this is a right-size, mid-size SUV for a lot of buyers. You can see the side mirrors black painted with an integrated turn signal. You have cameras around the vehicle. My tester also has the panoramic sunroof, which is typically an extra charge, along with these actual roof rails. Surprised it's not like a low-profile roof rail, which is kind of nice. So you can actually put stuff out on the roof. And then looking at the rear of the vehicle, you can see the design looks practically the same, although the taillights have been updated, just like the front headlights. You can see the taillights have a slightly new LED design to them with an LED signature. You have LED brake lights, LED reverse lights, LED turn signals. There's also the usual badging here with the AMG GLE 63S badge. You can also black out those badges. My tester doesn't have the blacked out package, and you can see the exhaust system. It's got quad exhaust, which looks fantastic, although I will say the actual muffler is behind there, so it's just a bumper trim piece. But AMG V8s always sound really mean, very sonorous and thundering, so let's go ahead and fire this thing up. You can hear how it sounds real quick. And if the look didn't show you this was the high-performance version, that sound every time you fire this vehicle up will definitely remind you you have the special version of the GLE. Now, looking at the cargo area, this vehicle is also very practical in that regard. When you don't have the third row, which you can't get on the AMG models, you get just under 34 cubic feet of storage space back here, which is plentiful. There's a ton of space back here. It's also well carpeted, it's well finished. You have a nice big underfloor storage area where somebody looks like they put lots of kitty litter back here. No spare tire, instead you just have to fix a flat kit and an air compressor. And if you fold down the second row seats, which you sadly cannot do from back here, you have to fold them down in the second row. It'll expand the cargo to just under 75 cubic feet, which is pretty much in the tops of the segment. The BMW X5 also offers roughly the same amount of space. So the exterior of the 2024 GLE doesn't look all that different from the pre-refresh model. So let's go ahead and take a look at the interior. However, before we do that, I do want to show you guys what the key fob looks like. You can see this is the current Mercedes-AMG key. It also has the AMG badge on it. I also like how the key itself is a nice small size. It feels really heavy and sturdy. It has your usual lock, unlock, open up the trunk, panic. And then if you guys have access to the Mercedes Me app, you should also be able to access this vehicle through your smartphone. Now, unlike some vehicles where they've gone with those pop-out door handles like some of the newer Mercedes stuff, this has a traditional door handle. If you touch the door handle there on this little area indentation with the key fob, it locks the car for you and folds the mirrors. Touch the back of the door handle and that will unlock the door for you. Now, looking at the interior, you can see my tester has the ideal color combination for a dark green exterior. This is their new brown interior with a two-tone look. Mercedes offered a brown in the pre-refresh model. However, they added some more pieces along the center console trim, as you can see, along the door panel where it's now brown. brown. It's definitely a nice looking interior color combination. I also love the matte finish real walnut wood trim that you're going to find splashed throughout the cabin, along with the brown contrasting stitching. These seats are power adjustable, of course, and I believe they adjust in like 20 different ways. They are heated, ventilated, and massaging, and Mercedes does some of the best massaging seats that you'll find in the industry, which is nice. You also have the AMG badge in the actual seats. They can adjust the bolsters here, and they just hold you in place really nicely, but they're also extremely comfortable. You're also noticing the new steering wheel. This is directly lifted off of the AMG S-Class and the new Mercedes AMG SL. The non-AMG models also get the steering wheel from the S-Class, but it's a different wheel. The materials on the door panel, you can see real leather stitching. You have padding area over here. This is surprisingly a hard touch plastic on this lower portion. Some nice storage. The window controls have a nice high quality tactile feel with a nice metal accented button, metal on the door handles, and then your seat controls are here. You have 3-person memory on both front seats, along with the optional Burmester stereo, which Mercedes-AMG does one of the best audios in the industry with their Burmester sound system. Now, getting inside the vehicle, you can see the step-in height is nice and high. You can also adjust that, of course, with the air suspension. My tester is lacking the soft closed doors, but when you do close the door, it has a nice solid sounding thunk. I found that you have to really slam the door. There were times where it didn't shut all the way. I would highly recommend going with that soft close feature for an extra $550. Now the start stop button is down here. When you turn the vehicle on, you can hear the vehicle kind of just whirs to life because of the EQ boost, the mild hybrid technology. It doesn't have that traditional starter noise. And then when you adjust the drive mode selector, which I love this new steering wheel here, how they put it right here on the actual steering wheel itself with a little knob, just twist that and then love that crackles and pops. Sadly, it has a pretty low red line, but man, that sounds good. So we'll be talking about that later on when we're in the driving scene. Now, looking at the rest of the instrument panel, you can see this is the same looking dash as before. You have two 12-inch displays. They kind of create one display, although this area here is just a blank portion of the screen. It's got the latest version of their MBUX, and you can see finally this car now has wireless Apple CarPlay. Before, you had to connect it from a USB-C cable, and when you had it connected, the CarPlay only took up like 3/4 of the screen where there were some unused black portions of the screen. Now you can see it's a full screen CarPlay, which looks great. It's quick, snappy, it's a touch screen. You can also continue to use the touchpad here or the touchpad here on the steering wheel and use your voice commands. My tester also has the heads-up display, which is usually an extra $1,000. The dashboard has the same beautiful leather stitching with contrasting stitching on the dash, where this is real leather, real wood, beautiful ambient lighting as well, where you can change the color and do multiple effects. Mercedes does amazing ambient lighting technology. The steering wheel itself has a power tilt and telescoping function with a good amount of adjustability and range. These buttons you can see are touch sensitive, where you can use this like a little trackpad. I can change out the display here and show multiple looks. You can even put your GPS, your driver assistance, your off-road. Most people will probably have it in the classic display. That's where it looks very classic. You can also change the center screen where you can put your GPS, your information, where your drive mode is, your engine temp, engine data, and then you can just do a simple trip computer function as well. So that looks pretty good. It hasn't really changed much. This also looks pretty much the same. You can see going back to the home display here, you can also put your GPS here. In addition to putting it over here, you can see the Mercedes system isn't nothing super special, but it's relatively straightforward and easy to use. If you want to access the massage, you go into comfort here, and these are all your different types of massages. My favorite is the activating massage. If you don't want to go into the screen here because it's not like a simple button, you can also just talk to the vehicle. So I can say, hey Mercedes. Hey Mercedes.
How may I help you?
Turn on driver's seat massage.
I'm switching on the massage on the driver's seat.
So that's kind of how you bypass having to go into the system here and click a few buttons, because there isn't just a quick simple button you can push to turn on the massage like there is for the heated and cooled seats, which by the way, these buttons feel really nice. You can also control the front passenger seat from this side, which is also a nice touch. Now when I put the vehicle into reverse, you can see there's your full 360 camera with a top-down view. Mercedes also gives you the ability to kind of scan around the vehicle, which is also a great thing. You can see the graphics, the resolution, the sensors and whatnot. The camera quality is all really good. It's also very quick, snappy, and responsive. So no complaints there. This is one of the best that you're going to find in the industry, which is really nice. But But overall, this system does take a little bit of time to get used to, but once you do, it's relatively straightforward. There's also an AMG performance page where it can show you all your different types of information if you guys plan to actually track this vehicle. Most of you probably won't. There's also an off-road page here. When you put into an off-road mode, it'll raise the suspension by 2.2 inches, which I don't know why you'd want to do that in a vehicle with 22-inch wheels, but hey, Mercedes gives you the option. You can see down here, you have your wireless phone charging pad. There's a big lid here with covered in wood that you can close up. You have heated and cooled cup holders, which is a nice touch. You have 2 USB charging ports, a 12-volt power outlet. My iPhone 14 Pro Max fits in there quite nicely. And then you can see the trackpad to control the screen is down here. And then this serves as a little thumb rest. You can raise and lower the vehicle from this little toggle right here. And then there are a couple of different shortcut buttons. The transmission selector, like other Mercedes models, is here on the steering column where the wiper controls would be. Instead, they moved it here, along with the headlight controls are down over here. The center console, you can see, has another USB-C charging port. It's a pretty good size in terms of storage. Above me, you can see I love the suede Alcantara headliner. It's got this retractable shade, which also allows you to open up the sunroof as well. You can see it blocks out a good amount of sun when it's not open, or when it is open, the sun comes in and it's a little bit hot for my taste, but you can see there is a bar here that intersects between the front and the rear part of the glass. The glove compartment, you can see, is damped. It's a bin style, it's huge, it's lined with felt, and this vehicle also has the air fragrance system. So when I go into the menu for climate, I can go to air quality, I can turn on the ionizer and the fragrant, where it wafts a perfume in here that smells amazing. The smell in this cabin just makes you feel like you're driving something really nice. And then the Burmester sound system also sounds really good. So overall, the tech in this car, the old one didn't really need that much in terms of upgrades. Really, it was just the CarPlay functionality, which they now fixed. I'm glad that Mercedes also showed restraint here by not doing their huge hyper screen, but overall, it's spacious, it's comfortable, it's got a lot of tech, and it also has impeccable build quality. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat of this vehicle, because this is a mid-size SUV, and surprisingly, it has a good amount of space back here, actually among the tops in the segment, because Mercedes says you have around 41 inches of legroom in the back seat. That actually outdoes vehicles like the BMW X5 by about 3 inches in terms of legroom. These seats also, they fold down manually, but you also can get a power fold function. My Tester doesn't have that. They don't have a recline function, sadly, and they don't adjust forward and back. The back door panels have the same beautiful leather, beautiful wood, metal, and padding over here where your elbow would rest. It's down here, it's hard touch plastic. You also have these power retractable shades, which you can control via the little window controls here, which do block out a nice amount of light. Now, when I get back here, you can see the space is just really plentiful. I mean, with 41 inches of legroom for somebody my height, I'm 5'7", I can stretch out, get comfortable. There's not a flat floor here, so for the middle passenger, it is going to be a little bit tighter, but you can see my Tester also has rear seat air vents. It's got 4-zone automatic climate control, and it has 3-level heated seats, although there's a missing button here. No cooled seats in the second row. I don't think Mercedes offers that option here in the US. You have rear seat air vents over here. You have 2 storage cubbies in each of the front seats, and then you can see here there's an armrest that folds down and gives you 2 cup holders. In terms of headroom, you can see just a ton of headroom for somebody my height, even with the panoramic glass roof, which, as you can see, comes all the way into the back over the rear passenger's head, so you can get plenty of sunlight in here. But overall, the back seat is definitely a really nice place to spend time. So if you need one of the bigger back seats in the segment, this model here is definitely going to be the car you're going to look at. So it's been a couple years since I had a chance to show you guys a review on the GLE class. Remember, this vehicle came out back in 2020. It is now technically in the 4th generation of the M class or ML class, renamed GLE back in 2016. And because it's been on the market for 4 years, we are finally driving the refreshed version. Now, in terms of powertrain changes, the 63 model didn't really get any. And the last time I drove this thing, I was simply blown away with the amount of speed that it offers. At some other point, I'll be able to hopefully drive the plug-in hybrid, which is a new offering, and then there's also the 53 model, which has more torque, which AMG says it's a little bit faster. But this model, the company claims, with 603 horsepower, should get to 60 in 3.7 seconds. We know that is conservative. We expect it to be far quicker than that in actual real-world testing. So let's go ahead and see what it's like out in the real world. But before we do that, I do want to talk a little bit about this car's feel when you're just driving it normally. It feels like a luxury vehicle, even though it has, you know, very stiff suspension, 21-inch wheels. It's got adaptive air suspension, basically. You can adjust the the drive mode selector to basically tailor this vehicle so that it feels like a luxury SUV. It always reminds you that it's a luxury SUV, never lets you forget that, and that's one of the reasons why people like this class of vehicles so much. AMG basically says that over half of their sales are sport utility vehicles, so it really shows you how popular the American people and just people in general love SUVs. So overall, this car still has a relatively nimble feel, even though I'm paddling around a vehicle that literally weighs around 5,600 pounds. But let's go ahead and try it on this stretch. This one here is slightly more uphill. Up ahead, we'll go onto a slightly more level surface and see what we can get. I'll switch the transmission here into its race setting, which it does have launch control. Oh, jeez. 3.59 seconds here, and that's with it more going slightly uphill. So already we beat the time that AMG claims at 3.7 going slightly uphill. Up ahead again, I'll try it on a more level surface and see if we can get a slightly faster time, but this is seriously one of the quickest accelerating SUVs you can buy. I mean, yes, there are quicker options. If you want to go even faster, like a sub 3-second SUV, you can pick up an electric vehicle like a Tesla Model X Plaid, a Rivian R1S. Most likely will be quicker, although I haven't had a chance to drive either of those vehicles yet. But really, when it comes to internal combustion vehicles, just put your foot down. The sound this thing makes, and the cracks and the pops from the exhaust system. Oh, I love this 9-speed. Oh, that's it. It's just thunderous. It's a really sonorous growl with the pops, the bangs, the crackles. It just makes you have a huge smile on your face. It also makes you forget that you're piloting around a vehicle that's this big, that's this heavy. It also handles extremely well. When you have the suspension in the race mode like I have now, it just stiffens up to the point where you feel like you're driving basically just a tall sports sedan, and that's kind of the beauty about these high-performance SUVs. They handle just as well as they accelerate, and they also brake really well because we have these massive 16-inch rotors clamped by 6-piston calipers. But this car also has a more rear-biased all-wheel drive system. It never sends more than 50% of the power to the front wheels because it tries to give you that more rear drive feel, which is what enthusiasts tend to like. And it's just amazing. I mean, the 4MATIC Plus all-wheel drive system, one of the best high-performance all-wheel drive systems you're gonna find. So I have very little complaints there. But let's go ahead and try it on this stretch. This is where it is definitely more level here. And we'll engage race mode. It's got the race start. Tunnel vision. 3.4 seconds there. Again, that is with it on level ground. Absolutely amazing performance. Germans are always really conservative when it comes to their 0 to 60 time. So I think the quickest I got in the pre-refreshed model was 3.3 seconds in the coupe. Now I believe the coupe weighs about the same as the regular squared off body. I could never get tired of doing that. That's just absolutely amazing. Incredible. So yes, could Mercedes-AMG do an even faster version? Sure, but I mean, for internal combustion vehicles, we are basically at the peak of that. This 4-liter engine is smooth, it's sonorous, it's thunderous, it has just gobs of torque, an endless barrage of torque, an endless reserve of torque. It also has very little turbo lag thanks to the Hot V configuration, and remember, it's pushing out almost 19 pounds of boost pressure. It actually is kind of low on the boost. I was expecting it to be in the mid-20s, so you could easily crank up the boost a little bit. This engine I'm sure could handle it. And that 9-speed transmission, Mercedes, basically they swapped out the torque converter for the twin clutch setup, and it's a quick shifting transmission. Is it as good as the ZF 8-speed? I'm not entirely sure. I'd have to drive the two vehicles back to back, but it's definitely up there in terms of my favorite high performance transmissions out there. Now, let's go ahead and switch the drive mode selector into comfort. Now in this mode, you're noticing that the exhaust gets quieter, the suspension gets softer, the steering got lighter, and it basically drives like any other GLE class vehicle. It has a comfortable ride, it's quiet in here, the seats are also comfortable. I'm sitting here getting a massage while the climate control system is wafting a perfume into the cabin. It just smells really good. I love the new infotainment system where it finally gives me full screen Apple CarPlay. It is wireless. It also has the MBUX commands where you can tell the car to do anything you'd like. Well, not anything, but using the magic M word, which I'm trying my best not to say because then it always starts to intervene annoyingly. But overall, it's a really easy vehicle to live with. It's also the right size. It doesn't feel too long, although you definitely feel the extra width. This model here, I believe, is around 79, just under 80 inches wide. So you feel that extra width. It gives you, that feeling that you're driving something a little bit special with a nice commanding view of the road. The driver assistance also works well. It's not the newest system with the complete hands-off that you can get in like the new S-Class, for example, but it's pretty much up there. I also love the new S-Class or Mercedes-AMG SL steering wheel in this vehicle. It just looks good. It's an improvement over the pre-refreshed steering wheel. I think it looks better, although it still has those finicky touch controls. And then in terms of fuel economy, I mean, if you guys care, it's rated at 1520. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 17 actually in mixed driving. That's when I was driving it in comfort and driving it very conservatively. On the highway, I got around 21 mpg, which is excellent. Now, if you drive it like a complete jerk and put it in Sport Plus and floor it all the time, I did get around 12.9 mpg. So you're basically in charge of the MPG. It's really up to you if you want to, drive this vehicle more economically or not. But I will say that it will get surprisingly decent fuel efficiency if you do drive the vehicle economically. So basically, everything that I liked about this vehicle when I first drove it almost 3 years ago is pretty much still intact. AMG basically just they tweaked a couple of things. It's still an excellent daily driver. It's still ridiculously practical on the inside. It's still ridiculously fast and efficient when you want it to be. And it finally has the CarPlay layout that I much prefer. Now, is this the newest system from Mercedes where it has the hyperscreen thing? No, but I like this layout. I like the way this interior looks, the way it feels, the way it smells in here. And is this one my favorite of the high-performance SUVs? It could very well be, although there are a lot of good choices out there, especially if you have this kind of six-figure money to spend. So with just under 58,000 units sold here in America in 2022, this represents the second best-selling vehicle in the US Mercedes-Benz lineup. So this is a very important vehicle for Mercedes-Benz and of course Mercedes-AMG. So it's no surprise to me that the company took a more conservative approach with the refresh. I mean, unless you guys have the old one parked next to this new one, you're not going to really be able to tell the difference. So the exterior styling, basically still recognizable as a GLE. I like the changes they've made. It still looks like a modern high-performance SUV that also is elegant, that also looks very expensive, very premium. The interior is really where they updated some things that are a little bit more functional. I do like the latest version of the MBUX infotainment system. I also like how Mercedes showed restraint here. They didn't have to go with their silly hyperscreen, which is just overwhelming. They just kept it the same as the two 12-inch displays. However, they updated the software to now include wireless Apple CarPlay. They improved the voice commands, and they also made the CarPlay full screen, which is one of my biggest gripes when I first drove this vehicle back in 2021. The interior still offers near class-leading levels of space in the cargo area and the back seat. In the front seat, there's a ton of tech, a ton of luxury. The build quality is superb, and it also drives phenomenally. I mean, the AMG model 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds is just stupid fast. It also handles basically like a tall E-Class sedan, because remember, the GLE basically means this is around the same size as an E-Class. It's built like an E-Class SUV. Really, if you guys want to buy one of these vehicles, they are heading to dealerships now. You might find a couple of base models at dealerships now. The 2024 model is still kind of rolling in slowly. I mean, it's starting at the base end at the 350, which has a 2-liter turbo 4-cylinder. I'd probably skip that one, but pricing for that model starts at around $62,000 now. So it's around a $5,000 increase versus the 2023 model. Everything's getting more expensive. The GLE is certainly no exception. Now, final pricing as of this filming hasn't been told by me from Mercedes-Benz. I'll update that in the comments section below once I get the updated pricing. However, I was told that the AMG 63 that I'm showing you here starts at $127,700. If you guys look at pricing of a 2023 model, that's around a $7,000 price increase, which is just insane. Keep in mind also, there's a coupe version of this vehicle, which is an extra $2,000 for less practicality, but Mercedes likes to tell you it's a better looking vehicle. I beg to differ. I prefer the more squared off body of this regular version. It's just more practical. And then of course, we also have that new GLE GLE 450e plug-in hybrid, which should get around 30 miles of electric-only range. It has around 479 pound-feet of torque, 381 horsepower. That should be the sweet spot for most people, especially if you want to dip your toes into the electrified space. And then, of course, if you don't want the full fat 63, there's also the 53, which should start at around 100,000, maybe slightly under 100,000, I'm guessing here, until Mercedes releases final pricing. Now, my particular tester here, since I don't have final pricing, with the options it has, like the 22-inch wheels, the upgraded interior, that new brown interior is a really nice color combination, with the Burmester sound, etc., the massaging seats. This model here I'm going to estimate with the carbon ceramics as well is probably around $150,000. If you build a 2023 model, it's around $142,000. So factoring in the $7,000 price increase, it certainly is no cheap proposition, but at the same time, you get a vehicle that reminds you constantly it is a special car, from the performance to the feel to the handling to the build quality to the technology. So overall, Mercedes-Benz started the segment and they're continuing to lead the segment, although there still are plenty of choices out there, especially if you have this kind of money to spend. With all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2024 Mercedes-AMG GLE 63S. That's a tongue twister. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.